Hey guys, this is McDouble. I wanted to talk about my trip to Big Bend National Park and Big Bend Ranch State Park in southern or western Texas on the southern border. Now, this video is going to be mostly about some of the hikes we did. We did some of the more popular ones, so it is sort of a vacation video. If that's not what you're looking for, then this video might not be for you, but we ended up staying at a private campsite called the Goat Pens because of the government shutdown. It was also very conveniently located in between both the state park and the national park in Terlingua, so it's a good site if you don't mind staying outside of the parks, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. What was really cool though is it was dispersed camping and very private. We were there for 5 nights, and there was someone there the night we got there, but they left in the morning, and then no one was there until the last night we were there. And it does actually have a couple porta potties on site, so it's not like backcountry camping. You do have the bathrooms to use, so it's definitely a great option if you want to check out both the state park and the national park. It was a good location to just have breakfast in the morning and then also have campfires at night. Now, this first part, I'm going to be driving up to Chisos Basin, which is probably the most popular part of the park. Now, this park was formed apparently however many tens of thousands of years ago or hundreds of thousands of years ago, I'm not quite sure, by an old volcano. And I believe Chisos Basin is sort of where the volcano erupted however many years ago. At least that's what I thought I heard a ranger saying. And it's probably the most popular spot because there's a lot of great hikes there, and there's a campground there. But when you're camping in the parks, you're not allowed to have fires at all. So that was part of our reason why we decided to stay outside of the park, because for us, campfires is a big part of the experience of camping. This road up to Chisos Basin was pretty cool. It was paved the whole way, but very windy. And staying at the Goat Pens in Terlingua, it was about a 45-minute drive, so you do have to take that into consideration. Because if you are going to do long hikes, then you of course have to consider how much time you have if you have 45 minutes to an hour driving each way, the beginning and end of your day. But it worked out for us. The longest hike we did, I believe, was 6 hours, and that is Emory Peak, which will be the last hike I show.
It's overflow parking.
So this campground was pretty packed too, or pretty tightly packed, I should say.
No wood fires.
I don't know if I wasn't filming at the time, but the first time I drove through here when I wasn't filming, there were RVs, and it was really hard to get my Tacoma through some of the corners, so it is very tightly packed. And again, no fires allowed, or wood fires allowed. So we did drive in for a couple of the hikes, a few days, and the first one I'm going to be showing is the Window. The Window, I believe, is a 3.6 mile hike round trip. It's out and back, and the way down is really easy. So the way down is 1.8 miles. It's pretty much downhill the whole way, but you got to remember you got to come back up the hill, so take that into consideration again. So this is the parking lot we parked at for the Window hike. Now there are two starting points. One is about a mile longer, but we chose the shorter one because we wanted to do a couple hikes that day. I believe it took us like 2 hours or something there and back. I can't remember exactly, but it has some very beautiful sights. And the last 100 yards is pretty cool. It's like stairs cut into the stone, and I didn't get video of that end, but this is why they call it the Window. It's got this really cool view out the side of the mountain. Earlier that day, we went to another hike, and we did take this dirt road, which was pretty bumpy. Like here, it didn't seem that bad. I actually saw an Audi on this road, and I believe they went all the way through. And some of these roads will be labeled high clearance vehicles or 4x4 vehicles only. And I would definitely recommend that unless you have, some cars like Subarus or Audis might be okay if they have decent clearance, but not if they're really low to the ground. Now, I didn't get any footage of the really rough parts, but I'll tell you, the rough parts, it's not like you're rock crawling, but there definitely was some parts that were bad and not flat like these roads here. So here you can see in the background, that's Santa Elena Canyon, which is another really cool site with a lot of great visuals or a lot of great vistas. I'll have to apologize for my camera has image stabilization on, which causes the weird shiftiness of the background. But yeah, once you get to the end of the dirt road, that dirt road took about an hour to drive down, so you can go all the way around on the pavement, but this way seemed quicker. So this hike was even shorter than the window. I think it was only about 2 miles out and back. It's got some really narrow canyons with a river flowing through it. And that is the Rio Grande River. So that's the southern border. Here I was being very careful to actually watch where I was stepping so I wasn't looking at my phone, because some of these hikes, there are some steep drop-offs just a few feet from where you're walking, so you got to be careful. This hike was cool because you can see that the old sediment of the bedrock, those layers, look like they're going up, and apparently that is because I don't know if it's from the volcano or tectonic plates, but it moved one side of the mountain or cliffs up, so it looks like it's on an incline. And there's also all this really cool bamboo. This kind of vegetation I don't get where I live in Minnesota. So each night I loved being able to come back to the goat pens, have some drinks, have a fire. It was very relaxing. Like I said, 3 of the 5 nights we were there by ourselves, so it was very relaxing and private. It did get pretty cold at night though. We were there in February, and one night it actually got below freezing. So if you go during the winter months, make sure you bring warm clothes because it's not going to be 70 or 80 at night. I think it was in the upper 30s to lower 40s most nights. There's also this really convenient general store called Cottonwood in Terlingua that pretty much sells everything you could need. They even sell Ozark Trail camping equipment, which is the Walmart brand if you guys aren't aware. But they sold all sorts of groceries like frozen pizzas. They had Indian food, Asian food. Just like it was pretty much like a regular supermarket, but just condensed into a tiny store. So I was really impressed with it. So one day we went out to Big Bend Ranch State Park, which is west of the national park, and I highly recommend checking it out at least one day. I actually thought the views on this road that goes through the southern part of the park had more beautiful vistas than the national park. There's particularly this one part where you're really high up above the river, and it was just a very, very beautiful area. Now, we only did one hike in the state park, so the hike we did was called Closed Canyon Trail, and it was really beautiful. It was like this for about 20 minutes, maybe not even 20 minutes. It's a pretty short hike, but unfortunately, without climbing gear, you're going to hit a point where you can't go any further. and you can't really see it, but down that hole, it's like a 7 or 8 foot drop. It was full of water too, just vertical walls. So if you want to do this hike, you're going to need some sort of climbing equipment or ropes, and you're going to have to do it in drier months because they had rain recently before we got down here, so that's why there's water filling some of those holes. But again, I would definitely recommend at least taking one day to check out Big Bend Ranch because it's very beautiful there. So for the last hike I wanted to talk about is Emory Peak, which is about a 10-mile round trip to the highest point in the national park. And the first mile actually seemed almost like the hardest part for me. Now, if you're not decently in shape, you might get really exhausted. The elevation change, I believe, was 2,755 feet. So you do, over 5 miles one way, go up quite a lot. The second mile sort of flattened out quite a bit. The second mile actually seemed like the easiest, but then you do start hitting the switchbacks, and there's maybe 20-25 switchbacks starting in mile 2 through mile 3. And this is where you're probably going up the most elevation, but it was really nicely formed. Like some people might not like this, but there were all of these stone steps that it made it a lot easier than the first mile, I thought. The first mile was a lot of loose gravel, and I slipped a lot more in the first mile than the third mile. After about 3 miles, you get to this fork in the trail, and you got to make sure you follow the correct path. There's also a bathroom at this fork in the road, which is pretty nice because this is the hike that took about 6 hours for us, and the average time according to the park is 7 hours, so bathroom being up there is pretty convenient. The fourth mile started out pretty easy, and it has some very beautiful views. You come out on the other side of the peak that you started on, and you sort of make your way up the back, and again, it's just very beautiful. But in that fourth mile, it starts to get really rocky, and you can see here, that's the peak right there. You do have to climb up about 20 feet. Now, I didn't get footage of it because I was a little freaked out. I don't like climbing, rock climbing, and right over that edge is just like a 200 foot vertical drop basically, so I was freaked out. I didn't film until I got to the top, but the last mile and a half definitely gets pretty hard because of that rock scrambling or climbing up the last 20 to 30 feet up, basically, vertical boulders. So overall, the park was so beautiful. It was so different than most of the national parks I've been to in the Rockies or in Canada. So, check it out if you guys are looking for something with some mild, easier hikes. If you're a veteran hiker, these might all seem very easy to you. If you're out of shape, then Emory Peak might be too hard for you. It's really hard to say. I didn't get too worn out from it, but I'm in decent shape. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this look at Big Bend National Park and Big Bend Ranch State Park. Highly recommend checking it out. And if you like this video, I'd appreciate if you hit like and subscribe. So thanks for watching.